This woman served her husband for 40 years. Day 3 meals offered to the mouth. Eating her husband's leftover rice. Wiping his mouth also wiped the paper he had used. At home her husband was king. She was like a servant to him. Yet the husband was still dissatisfied. Every day he came home drunk. Even sometimes scolding her badly. Didn't earn any money and stayed at home eating. Until one day, her 90-year-old mother died. No longer bound, so decided to live for oneself once. Friends learned of her divorce. Without saying 2 words, they immediately went back to their hometown to pack up for her. Evening came, when the husband was fast asleep. Young-ae packs her bags. Leaving the house she had lived in for 40 years. The next day, the husband came to his senses. He again called for her to come like a servant. But Young-ae wasn't there. At this time, Young-ae has returned to the house in the countryside. It's a bit old, though. But she could sleep until she forgot everything here. No one shouted her up. Like to sleep until you sleep. A while later, Hee-ya also goes back to her hometown to find Young-ae. Unexpectedly, Young-ae was still lying asleep. At this point Young-ae's daughter called. She asked her why she wasn't home. Hee-ya says her mother can no longer live with her father. So she ran away from home. She then called Young-ae up. Your husband is going crazy over there. Your daughter called. Tell her I'll call back later. Saying that, she fell asleep again. Hee-ya, knowing this time she really let go. She carried a pillow next to Young-ae. And heartbreakingly patted her. That she might sleep well. Just like that my 2 daughters came. The daughter puts all the blame on Young-ae's head. She said her grandparents were old and had filed for divorce. Her daughter couldn't lift her head to look at her husband's face. It is true that the whole face of the nose is lost. But Young-ae remained silent and did not speak. After her 2 children left, Young-ae made egg tarts whipped with her best friends. The husband knows nothing to cook. His daughter came to the house to cook food for him. And told him to yield to her mother a little. Why should I find her? 70 years old like me still have to carry my face to work, why beg her? You've tormented her enough. Mom cooks for you every day. You treated her like a servant. Have you ever touched anything in your whole life? Men who have to carry water and cook. The daughter was bored. Her father said as much as a month. Your mother had to crawl back home. The next day, he called his best friend. Tell them bring rice to themselves. Then put down the lunchbox. The dear friend witnessed a horrifying sight. The kitchen looks like a battlefield. Bowls of chopsticks that have not been washed for several days are still soaked in a basin of water. Don't you wash the dishes? Sung-jae replied, my daughter will arrive in 2 days. She tells him not to wash, then don't eat. Suspecting Mr. Sung-jae to threaten them. The ladies who bothered me dragged Young-ae here. Otherwise, just clean up my poop for her. I'll call you every day, 2 meals a day. Do you think we'll still come clean up next time? Only this one time. Hearing this, Sung-jae fumed. He criticized it all at her friends. We lived peacefully all our lives. Because of you that she was asking for a divorce. That afternoon, Sung-jae returns to his hometown to find Young-ae. As soon as he arrived he threatened. If you threaten not to return, preparing for divorce is just right. She said nothing. She pulled out a piece of paper from a drawer. Thrown in front of Sung-jae. He picked it up and looked. It was the divorce petition she had prepared for a long time. Application for divorce. I signed it. You sign and submit. Divorce away. After the divorce this house is mine. Want to sue, huh? What? Scared? Let's sue. The 2 decided to go to court to divide the property. But Sung-jae doesn't realize his mistake at all. Coming to the door he still had to cherish. What kind of person are you? Crazy woman. That night, Young-ae drank her beer and watched television. If it was the former, she would certainly be criticized by her husband. But now she lives very freely. The husband on this side dreams that he is lost on a road. He was also hit by a train. He sat up in panic. It was only now that he realized that living alone was terrifying. Early the next morning, he went to the bank to withdraw money. When he went out, he saw travel ads again. He remembers Young-ae once saying she wanted to travel around the world. He laughed at her then. So he decided to fulfill his wife's wish. That afternoon the Sung-jae siblings learned of their grandparents' divorce. They pay off their homes. Hopefully he can get his sister-in-law home. I suspect Young-ae doesn't care about those things. Are you happy now? I surrendered. Collect the debts here. These are all yours. It's not enough to travel around the world, but you can go a few places. Are you happy now? But Young-ae wasn't happy. She told him to bring back the money. Then lie down again to sleep. That night, Sung-jae goes to the riverbank. He felt very lonely, and went to his best friend's house and confided. He said Young-ae was an evil woman. Over the years she had made him someone who couldn't live without her. She was like my mother, taking care of me all my life. It wasn't just empty talk that he wanted her to go home. When it came to his savings and travel itinerary, he was already prepared. But she still just liked to lie still and sleep. Thinking this time she really intended to give up on herself. Sung Jae is extremely upset. Darling. It turned out he had nightmares. He suddenly asked his opponent to scratch his back habitually. But such things. Formerly served by Young A. His friend thought Sung Jae asked him. So he helped him scratch for a while. When he finished, he sniffed his own hand. That scent. So terrifying that it made him want to vomit. Woke up the next day. The old man just went to the toilet. The friend was quick to stop him. He tells Sung Jae to sit down and pee. Don't mess around. It turns out last time he went to the bathroom here. All over the toilet sprinkled with urine. Even spread to the floor. So his friend told him to sit down. Men's self-esteem, who would sit? The friend said when he was 40 he had already begun to sit. Now 70 Sung Jae is sitting. Is there any self-respect to discuss? Quickly sat down, said, and then he went out. But still not reassured. He turned his head to check. Then left. Sung Jae also gets to experience the feeling of peeing. At the same time, Young A defiantly goes to her daughter's house to clean up. The eldest daughter told her to hurry home. Because her father made her come to cook all the time. But Young A is focused only on her own business. She said nothing. That evening she made 3 close friends. To the pub to listen to the festival. Talk on and on. People started talking about insinuations. If you want to touch, you touch. Gosh, what's not to touch? Now the chestnut skin was still smooth. You're a lot of eyeballs too, aren't you? Don't touch me. People are looking. It turns out the best friends are together. There really is nothing that cannot be discussed. That's great. End of appointment. Young A arrives at Hee Ja's house. She suddenly received a phone call from her husband. Good night. Yes. He was not committed. So call again. Already. I said good night. Okay. Seeing her hang up again, he called again. Do you have to say good night too? I've already said that to you. You had to respond too. To hear you speak. I've already called you. She said in annoyance, who asked him to call. Then immediately power off the phone. Darling.